Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to your Daily Penguin. This is our slow waddle through my Penguin Classic wall. Those of you who may be wondering about the odd lighting in this video, you might be thinking, well, it's a dark, gray, cold, rainy day here in Boston, and it's late in the day, so you've got the ceiling light and the side light and the wan light coming through the window, and that's probably combining to create this weird effect, and you would be wrong. This weird effect is actually the light of heaven shining down directly upon me. And it serves as a salient reminder of something that I mention on this channel from time to time, which is that Steve is always right. Okay? Anyway, let's move on. Today, with your Daily Penguin, we're going to talk about a Penguin Classic, translation in English. Who did this translation? William Kibler, with a timely assist by Carlton Carroll. We're going to talk about a Penguin Classic version of an author from the 12th century that you've probably never heard of, but whose works you know intimately. This author's fictional creations you know, even though you don't know the author. Most people don't know the author, or they misattribute where these things come from. This is Chretien. And this is a Penguin Classic collection of 5 of his little Arthurian romances. And we saw King Arthur. We mentioned him earlier when we were talking about the Venerable Bede, and when we were talking Geoffrey of Monmouth. We mentioned bits and pieces of the mytho-history of King Arthur in England. But most of the details, most of the big stuff, we mentioned King Arthur when it comes to the background for Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. But most of the actual details of Guinevere and Lancelot and Sir Percival and the Grail and whatnot all come from this author. And not from, as most people think, Thomas Malory. They come from earlier folklore sources, but this author worked them into works of art and was extremely popular. Oh my! One of the items, the threads that we talk about in our March of the Penguins, is the vagaries of translation, and another is the pitiless ratio of the survival of manuscripts. And we don't have to worry about either one of those in the case of this author, because there are many, many, many manuscripts. People were copying this author like crazy, and because we've mentioned before, I've mentioned on March of the Penguins before here, that we have a force acting in the Western world that is increasingly making it unlikely that we will be dealing with one manuscript or half a manuscript or fragments the size of credit cards or whatnot, and that force is the church, which could employ whole buildings full of copyists and could command secure storage for the results. And the result is that we are moving increasingly into a world in which you won't be talking anymore about just one surviving manuscript. Certainly with Chretien, we have plenty of them. This author was a mover and a shaker in Plantagenet circles, was attached to the court of Marie, one of the daughters of Eleanor of Aquitaine by the King of France, her first marriage to the King of France, and later on, this author almost certainly, I would say to a certainty, attached himself to the court of Henry II, probably through connections with Henry's stepdaughter. But one way or another, this was a person who had access to courtly circles, to the best in terms of material and copyists and whatnot, and as a result, we have a good tradition of Chretien de Troyes, and what remains is a question that has come up in a couple of these medieval, especially these 12th century, these books of courtly love type figures, is how much you can stomach. It's not a question anymore for these books anyway of, isn't it a miracle that we have this at all? Instead, it's a question of, is this going to be anything that you want to read in English? And I thought I'd give you an example of what I'm talking about here, because this is, you might think if this is Arthurian stuff, it will be knights in battle with giants and whatnot, but no, no, it is that. There is some of that, but these authors are mostly concerned with the fineries of courtly love. And that can get a little bit grinding. Let me read you just a bit here. This is one lovelorn character, could be anyone in any of these stories. Now that I've admitted I love him, will I not give in to my desire? Yes, as long as it does not displease him. This desire is wrong, but love, with a capital L, has so overwhelmed me that I am a bewildered fool. I must suffer love's assault, for there is no defense against it. I prudently protected myself from love. Keep in mind, all these loves have capital L's. From love for a long while, and always refused to do his bidding. But now I am much too obliging to him. But what thanks will he owe me if through love he cannot obtain my service and goodwill? His strength has overcome my pride, so I must accede to his pleasure. I want to love. I have a teacher. Love will instruct me. But in what? In how I must serve him. But I have learned this lesson well, and I am so expert in his service that no one could find fault with me. There is no more to be learned of that. Love wishes, and I too wish, that I be gentle and modest, friendly, cordial, and hospitable, all for the sake of one. Shall I love them all because of the one? I must be pleasant to everyone, but love does not instruct me to be the true love of everyone. Love teaches me only what is good. I have not been given the name Sordimars for nothing. I must love and must be loved. I wish to prove this by my name, if I can reason it out. It is significant that the first part of my name is a golden hue, for the more blonde one is, the better. Therefore I consider my name the best, since it begins with the color with which gold is most in harmony, and the end of my name reminds me of love, for whoever calls me by my right name evokes love's tint within me. That goes on for 6 pages in that one book. That is one of the books that are included in here. That goes on for 6 pages. And then the person that character is talking to then responds with 6 more pages of the same thing. So you have to carefully gauge whether or not this is for you. I myself have always thought that this is far more entertaining to read about than to read, especially when you're talking about the fingers of influence that it has in Arthurian legend, in the Arthurian tradition. But despite how much of the building blocks of that tradition we owe to this author, I would almost read any other evocation of that tradition than this. so this Penguin Classic is not exactly a recommend. If you love it, more power to you, but I have never found it in me to love it. And I've also, one of the things that I'm discovering, one of the things I'm using this Penguin Classic tour for, is to control my Penguin Classic collection, to look at it and see how many doubles do I have, what books here are dead weight, what books are here just because I was at one moment or another seized with a completist mind frame about Penguin Classics. A completist mind frame is absolutely anathema to the way I look at books. I do not collect anything just to be complete. I have to use it. I have to love it. I have to want to keep it. And as a result, I've been building a little pile of Penguin Classics that are, believe it or not, discards. And one of the reasons I've been doing that, even though it seems like heresy for I'm Penguin Classics' biggest fan, but one of the reasons I've been doing that is to make more room for Penguin Classics that I don't have and that I would love. Not only books that exist already, but ones that are coming out. So I'm not sure that this thing's going to make the cut. Of course, everything makes the cut for now because nothing's going anywhere. I can't get rid of any of these things, but nevertheless, when I pulled this down, I was examining it again for our video today. I was asking myself, do you ever use this book? You certainly don't ever like it. You will never pull it down to read it and like it, unlike so many Penguins that I've shown you in the last 2 months. I would never pull this down to enjoy it. And so I would only pull it down to use it, to refer to it. And do I really do that? I don't really do that. So if you're a huge fan of Arthurian literary tradition, you have to know this book. You have to read it and know it. And Penguin, God bless them for doing a volume like this, but I don't think it makes the cut for me. So we're going to move, whenever I do this, whenever I hit a book where I'm thinking, I'm not the least bit interested in this, I don't know why I have it, whenever I hit what I consider like that to be rock bottom with a Penguin Classic for Your Daily Penguin, I always try to rebound the next day with something that I can't live without. I'm going to try and do that tomorrow. We're in a bit of a trough here. We had a legal document, but it was a great edition. Magna Carta was a great edition of it. Now we have these little Arthurian legends that don't do it at all for me. So tomorrow I'm going to try and give you a penguin that I can enthuse about, so we'll get our mojo back. But I'm going to wrap this up for now. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.